Hello everyone, bringing you a video today looking at these. And of course these are two examples of the British Mark VI combat helmet. Now there's some argument regarding the introduction date of the Mark VI, or there was. 1984 seems to be a date of initial issue to 5th Airborne Brigade, a limited issue. And then in 1985, a more general issue follows. So there's kind of two dates there of initial introduction and then more widespread introduction of the Mark VI. These two represent the two most common variants you will find. On my left, your right, we have a smooth finish shell from 1985. And on my right, your left, we have a textured finish shell from 1988-89. They both share all other features apart from the finish. Some earlier Mark VIs have slight variations in the fittings and so forth. There's a good website which I'll mention elsewhere in the video as well, probably called ghosttack.co.uk, which details some of those beyond the initial trial items, some of which are also covered on the website. So it's a good one to have a look at if you're interested in these. But that's it. So basically the two basic versions of the Mark VI with the two different finishes to the helmet is what we're going to be looking at today. None of the slightly unusual early versions thereof, just these two basic setups. So we'll move on now and we'll have a look at the smooth shell first. Okay, so the first of the helmets we're going to have a look at is the smooth finish Mark VI, and this one dates from 1985. There is a label in here which it's somewhat hidden behind the liner, unfortunately. But you might have to take my word for the fact that it is 1985 dated. I don't know how well that's going to show up in camera.
Okay, here we have the 1985 dated helmet, and hopefully you can see enough detail of the label there. You can certainly see the date and the size there, no problem.
But this basically follows the standard Mark VI design that was in production from 1985 onwards. Prior to this, the design didn't differ too much in 84, but you didn't have these upper blank rivets on the side, which of course allow you to fit a visor, the pivot points for a visor. Other than that, the design the year prior to this was the same, and going back further, there are further variations. And as I say, there's a website called ghosttack.co.uk, I think, which I'll put a link to in the description. Which covers the development of British composite helmets and has some information on the trials versions of this and early production variants that predate this. So if you want to see more, then I would recommend looking there. What we're looking at today are the two most common versions you'll see that were the sort of the standard manufacturing design from 85 onwards. So this is the smooth type, which is slightly earlier. Of course, made of ballistic and nylon, not Kevlar, and the design supposedly of the shell has no shelf life. Basically, it will last forever, and it's certainly true that many of these shells were actually sent back for refurbishment, have new liners fitted and so forth. So it's possible that there were early shells floating around right into the 2000s when these were replaced or supplemented, and then finally replaced with the Mark VIa and then the Mark VII, of course. The outside features here, as I've already said, this lower plastic rivet holds the back strap in place, which allows the liner to be adjusted. The top one is literally just a blanking plug for when a visor attachment is fitted on the side here. You can see at the side here one of the screws for the chin strap pivots, and there's another one at the rear here. The two upper black sort of little horns here, they're actually the end of the rivets, the rubber rivets which hold the liner in place, or studs, or whatever you want to call them. So when the liner is removed for refurbishment and replacement, these are cut off and then new ones are inserted. So that's what those two little pieces are there. We move around the other side, we can see the identical pieces here. The lower one, of course, holding the back strap, and the other one just plug for removal when fitting a point for a visor to be fitted. The other screw here is for the right hand pivot point for the chin strap. We'll have a look inside now. The liner of this one is missing a component, which is the brow pad here is missing, the leather brow pad. Still has its back one. This was a very cheap helmet, so I wasn't too fussed about that. I will probably replace that at some point. But you can see the basics of the liner here. Polystyrene construction. You have a front pad and a back pad, and then the skull pad here. And then you have, of course, these little nylon loops with a ring, a cord ring in the middle there, which can be tightened and adjusted to give a little bit of a different sit on the head depending on your head shape. The chin strap is three-point suspension system, so you've got the back and the two side points there corresponding to the screws we saw on the outside. And of course it's made of cotton with a leather chin cup there. and a quick release, which we'll have the chin strap assembly on the second helmet is in better condition, so we'll have a bit more of a look at the details of that when we get to looking at the textured helmet. But as I say, that's a 1985 dated smooth finish Mark VI, very typical of those. Obviously 1985 being the year when these were sort of mass issued, I wasn't too concerned about getting an earlier dated example with some of the earlier variations. This is sort of the benchmark of the real standard issue example with the black. The major thing that differentiates this from the 1984 production, as I understand it, is the blanking plug in the top of the points there, obviously for mounting the pivot points for a visor. So we'll move on now to have a look at the textured example. Here we have the textured finish Mark VI, which is much better condition than the other one, and the liner's complete, so I'll have a bit better look at the interior of this one. The design otherwise is exactly the same. As you can see, you've got the fixing points here for the chin straps, you've got the two rivets there on the side, obviously the top one just a blanking plug basically for when you want to fit a visor. Around the back you have the two studs which hold the liner in place, the ends of the rubber rivets there, and to remove the liner these actually have to be cut off and renewed. So looking inside, where's the label on this one? Over this side. Just see if we can get the chin strap out of the way. See if I can get this up to the camera here and show you the label in there. I don't know how well that's going to show up.
Okay, I've tried to get as much natural light in here as possible, and I'll just pull the strap down there and you can see the label inside the helmet clearly enough, hopefully.
But as I say, this one's dated 1988-89, and with most Mark VI helmets, it's made by National Plastics in Coventry. Batch number 6/875, this one. So this is obviously immediate pre-Gulf War. It seems to be that the textured finish came in around 1987-88. There are 87 dated smooth examples out there, so I would suggest probably very late 87, early 88 was when this finish came into use. We don't have a concrete date on that. The liner on this one is complete, so we have the leather brow pad there, the leather back pad here, the liner of course made of polystyrene itself, and then obviously you have the tied ring in the center there to give some adjustment. You can adjust this by untying the knot and retying it. The chin strap is in much better condition, as you can see. Nice the rough side of the leather there on the chin cup, which does give a very comfortable bearing surface on the chin, and the 3 points of suspension there. So the design, as I say, is exactly the same. You can better see here the little loops of elastic on the chin strap, which are designed to hold the loose ends in place once they've been doubled back through the plastic buckles on the helmet. So that's the basic design. Obviously a quick release in having the black and brass ring there, which the chin strap then loops through with this press stud here. So it loops through there, and can't really do it with one hand. Might be able to demonstrate. There we go. Loops through there, and then just clips through on there. So that's it fastened basically. So to unfasten it is very simple. You just pull that and it falls apart. So a quick release in that regard if you need to get it off in a hurry. But that's the basic Mark VI design. We'll just have a quick look at a couple of helmet covers. So here we have a look at the helmet covers, and we're going to start with the temperate DPM example here, which you can see has green elastic for attaching foliage and scrim to provide camouflage. This is, as I say, the temperate DPM example. It's a polycotton cover. Very simply fit, obviously stitched to shape to the size of the helmet with these little pleats let in there. And you can see it simply fits around the rim of the helmet with a draw cord, and it knots at the back here. You pull the draw cord tight, tie a knot, and that's it. It's fitted to the helmet. So very simple and a very effective way of allowing soldiers to camouflage the helmet effectively. And of course, these weren't just made in temperate DPM. They were also made in desert DPM, as you can see here. And this is a Gulf War era cover on the 88-89 helmet. Again, with foliage loops, just the same design basically made in desert DPM with tan or very light tan elastic in place of the green. And of course these would later be made in MTP as well. But you also see these without the elastic loops in UN blue. You see them in UN blue, and there's also a day glow example with silver reflective strips for traffic control duties and so on. They go a little bit beyond the scope of my collecting, as I believe they were introduced post the era that I really represent. I think the NATO blue one might be included. I'm not sure when the day glow example came in. But that's just a run through the helmet covers that were available with these, just 2 examples of them in my collection here. So there we go, just a quick look at these 2 different Mark 6 helmets. These are the 2 I say that you're going to find most commonly, because they are the 2 that follow basically the end standard design that was set for future production from 1985 onwards. Prior to this, as I say, there are variations, and I recommend looking at the website I mentioned. I've linked in the description if you'd like to see more details on that. There's some trial items there with a single, a 2-point chin strap and various other things, which are quite interesting to have a look at. But that's everything I wanted to cover in the video, I think, just looking at these 2. Obviously, if you like this sort of content and you'd like to see more, then please do consider subscribing. And if you've already subscribed or you're newly subscribing, then make sure you hit the notification button, which will obviously notify you of when I upload future videos. As usual, I'll say there's a Facebook and an Instagram page. Facebook page is a good place to get in touch with me if you want to chat about things. And also I put sneak peeks up on both of those of upcoming videos and links through that often give early access. So a good place to check out if you're interested. But that's it for now. It's everything I wanted to cover in the video. So until next time, bye for now.